When I was growing up, malls were presented as the hip place to be. It's where kids went to hang out, play video games, and loiter, and if you weren't at the mall, then you might as well be dead. Nowadays, malls are so 2000 and late, as the kids say. By 2022, analysts estimate that 1 out of every 4 malls in the US could be out of business. But if your local shopping mall shutters its doors, don't fret, because you can still capture all the excitement of going to the mall with Mall Madness, the shopping spree game that talks.
I'm mad about shopping! You're mad about Mall Madness! Catch the madness, it's Mall Madness.
Attention mall shoppers.
It's Mall Madness, the talking shop till you drop game.
Sale at the Fashion Boutique.
Catch the madness, it's Mall Madness.
I love my own credit card.
It's Mall Madness.
No deposits.
Take $100.
It's Mall Madness.
I love my own credit card.
My own credit card.
It's
First out of the mall with all their stuff wins.
I was born
credit card.
Mall Madness.
I played Mall Madness at a friend's house when I was younger, and I always wanted a copy, but never got my hands on one until recently. I decided to give in to the nostalgia, and I picked up a copy for about $42 on eBay, which is a little over what the board game seems to be going for these days. But the only piece missing was a small purple peg, and the previous owners made their own replacement peg out of wood, and for some reason that just made me feel like, I don't know, it was a well-loved copy and it was probably going to be in pretty decent condition. First time setup is a little tedious. There's some stickers involved, which is never fun. There's also these store panels that you slide into these plastic walls here. And if you want the full Mall Madness experience, you want to make sure the correct panels are in front of the correct stores here. Also, you want to make sure your elevators don't open into a fountain. That always looks a little strange. Once everything's set up though, I mean, this game just looks awesome. This is a really cool looking board. It looks just like a real mall, and just setting it up makes me feel nostalgic. Even though it doesn't look exactly like the mall that I grew up going to, it still brings up all those happy, fun, nostalgic memories. The game supports 2 to 4 players, each of whom start with a shopper piece, a high-quality cardboard shopping list, a credit card, and $200 cash. I really like how the color of the shopper pieces match the color of the credit cards. When I played recently, I was yellow, and I grew almost emotionally attached to the design of the quick draw credit card, though all the credit card designs are pretty special. To start the game, you have to turn on the speaker unit and let it know how many players there are, and then the Mall Madness begins.
Attention mall shoppers, there is a clearance at the phone store. There is a sale at the jewelry store, and at the men's shop.
In Mall Madness, you assume the role of a mall-savvy teen with mom's credit card in hand, and your goal is to purchase 6 items from your shopping list and be the first to make it back to your car. The items you're trying to buy on your shopping list are all things that teens typically went to the mall for back in the day. Boots, coat, designer shades, ceramic gifts, exotic parrots, floor lamp, you know, stuff teens want. The actual items that you buy aren't that important. You just need to get 6 of them. It can be any items from any stores, the only rule being that you can only buy from each store 1 time. It's the prices that you really need to pay attention to, because at its very core, Mall Madness is a money management game. To start your turn, you push the big gray button.
Red, move 7.
Sometimes when you push the button, you'll be instructed to relocate these clearance and sale signs, because in this universe there are only 2 sales and 1 clearance happening in the mall at any given time, and they relocate like every 5 minutes. It's madness, dude. It's
My own credit card.
As you'd expect, if you show up to a store that's running a sale, you'll pay a lower price for the item on your list. If I have one big complaint about Mall Madness, is that you have both a credit card and cash. and it doesn't really make sense from a theme perspective why you would use both at the same time, and that can make the rules a little bit difficult to figure out the first time around. To purchase an item, you first put your card in the buying slot. Then you have to use your cash to pay the banker. So at first, I was confused as to why you were paying with your credit card and then paying with cash. But it's because this speaker unit here isn't very smart. It can't tell which of the cards you're actually inserting because these things are just cardboard. And it also doesn't keep track of how much money each player has. Putting your credit card into the buying slot is less like actually buying an item and more like asking permission to buy an item. Sometimes you'll be told you can't buy anything that turn.
I'm sorry, we're out of stock. Try again later.
Other times you might get lucky and come across a secret sale.
Hey, you get a special sale.
So this is not a credit card. In fact, it's more like a debit card because you have to go to the bank and use it to make withdrawals when you're low on cash.
Take $75.
So it kind of doesn't make sense, and we also really need to consider what we're teaching the children here, man. Little Sally here is gonna grow up thinking that money just comes out of ATMs at random amounts.
Green, you're hungry. Meet a friend at the pizza shop.
Sometimes when you push the movement button, you'll be told to move to a specific space, but the most fun is when you get told you can move one of the other shoppers around. It's one of the few ways you can actually interact with the other players, and it's just hilarious to move someone who's super close to a clearance sale all the way over to the pizza shop where they have to pay $5. And that's pretty much Mall Madness. It's a pretty straightforward game. You just run around the mall, buy your 6 items, and then be the first to make it back to your car to win. Playing it again for the first time since I was young, I worried that maybe it was going to be a little bit too simple. But once you start going into stores, even though there's not a sale going on, and you start counting your cash to make sure you can afford your next purchase, I think it's got just enough strategy in there to make it a perfect casual board game experience. Sometimes you're just not in the mood for a heavy board game like Power Grid or something. You just want some light fun with friends, and I think Mall Madness does this really well. The theme alone is just too cool. It kind of reminds me of Clue, where a lot of the fun just comes from wandering around the board. I think the mall is just a really cool setting for a board game, and I think the art style is what kids today would call aesthetic app.
Attention mall shoppers, there is a clearance at the computer store. There is a sale at the fashion boutique and at the sunglasses boutique.
My own credit card.
If you think you might want to run out and pick this board game up, I think the 80s version might have the better cover, but whatever you do, just don't get the 2004 version because it just looks atrocious. But if you happen to be a Hannah Montana fan and want to give it a spin, I've got some good news for you. I think I said this earlier, but I just played this for the first time in a long time with a group of friends a couple days ago, and I had a really good time. I found myself getting really into it after a while, especially when it came to the roulette of will I or will I not be able to buy an item. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Hell yeah, dude. I wasn't the only one getting into it either. My friend Shane, who ended up winning, was just overwhelmed with excitement. How do you feel?
The same.
Now that I think about it, I think Lee actually told me that it was his favorite board game of all time. Lee, do you want to tell me your thoughts about Mall Madness?
It was good.
And after playing it, I gotta say, it seems like a game that you could add some really fun house rules on top of. Maybe you gotta buy specific items, maybe you have to buy more items. I know there's a zombie variant for Mall Madness floating around out there. I think you could do some really fun stuff with it if you wanted to spice it up. If you end up running out and picking up your own copy of Mall Madness, be sure to let me know how you feel about it. Either here on the comments of this video or on Twitter or something. If you have your own nostalgic memories of this game, playing it in the past with friends or family, leave it in the comments. I would love to hear. For some reason or another, I'm very nostalgic for this game, even though this is my first time owning it. Just a really cool theme, it really stuck with me, and I'm really excited to have my own copy now. So let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and I'll see you guys next time.